Okay, today we are playing with the opposed twin, getting it all tore apart, and this is the pressure lube engine that's going to go in my BP mower. I just started tearing it down. I got the bottom rod off. It looks good. I don't see any significant scratches or no damage to that rod. If you guys recall, somewhere near the beginning of this year, I've had this running in my actual BP mower that I've got, and it was knocking, surprisingly, very surprisingly, it was knocking, and we came to determine it was the top rod. Well, the funny part is, I don't know if it's just a common thing for that top rod to go bad, but on my BP engine that I've got now, the rod went bad on that, on the top cylinder. So we'll probably pay a little more attention to that when we put this together. But regardless of what I'm going to do, I'm going to be running billet rods. I'm going to be running the AVS pistons. I've got a flywheel. I'm still not for sure if I want to. I was thinking about having the crankshaft guys put a 15,000th stroke on the crank, moving this rod journal out 15 thousandths. That way it'll give me a zero deck height. But the problem is, if you guys can see in the back, let me get you. See right here on the cam? Well, from the factory they had to do that. That way the rod bolts don't hit the cam as it swings around. When you put billet rods in here, what you have to do is you have to actually grind a little more away from that side. And as you turn it, as you can see, let me zoom in a little bit here, it's actually ground on both sides, so you'll have to grind on the left and the right hand side when you put the billet rods in. Now my only concern is, if I stroke this engine 15 thousandths, that's going to be an extra maybe 15 thousandths on both sides, and there's a hole running through the center of that cam. And you really don't want to take too much out of that. For one, you'll weaken the cam. For two, you'll hit the hole and you're screwed. There goes your oil pressure. So, whether or not that's actually worth all the effort and work and trouble just to get the piston to come up to the top of the deck or not, I'm going to probably say not. So I'll come to a more final decision later on down the road until we get this cleaned up and see what my crankshaft guys say. But the cylinders on this thing, down here, they actually look pretty good. There's literally no wear to that one. You know, usually down here there's more wear than there is anywhere, and there's not even a lip to grab a hold there. So that looks pretty good. Obviously it's a little gummy and dirty. This cylinder that we had issues with, it's got a little rust to it right now. It's been sitting for a while, but there is no wear to that. So what's nice is I can get standard pistons to put on this, and we shouldn't have an issue. So that's that. We are going to modify the cam a little bit, get a little higher lift. We're going to go ahead and stay with the stock duration. And the reason why I don't just go full out, buy a cam, you know, have all this good stuff put in it, is because I'm actually running against a bunch of guys that all they do is they slap a billet flywheel on and take the governor off and spin it as fast as she goes. So technically I'll be running against a bunch of stock guys, so there's really no need to put a whole bunch of performance in this. I just want to get off the corners a lot better than they can. Get down the straightaways. You know, a little more performance is better than just plain stock. So we're going to do a little bit of port work to this. Just clean them up. Get all that crap out of there. Get all the rough spots. We're going to cut the eyebrow out, which this is nice because the gasket's on here. So this is what I did to the other engine. I actually just marked it right around the gasket, and I ground all this away to where it was flush with the valve seats. We're going to go ahead and we're going to polish, swirl the valves. We're going to put a little, put exhaust springs all the way around, get rid of the intake springs. So I'll get those, all new exhaust springs. There's really not going to be a whole lot done to this motor except for billet goodies. That and a little bit of performance stuff with mild porting and mild cam work. But other than that, that's pretty well all that's going to do. That's just going to be, let's go out and have some fun mower. I've got the V-twin head soaking. I've got the carburetor in there soaking. It's just soapy water. I've got the crankshaft cleaned up out of the V-twin. We're going to take that to work and we're going to magnaflux that and make sure there's no serious cracks in that, because I don't want to hit 7,000 RPM and that crankshaft come apart. I got the V-twin block not all cleaned up, but cleaned up for the most part enough to get it to work and not have the guys complain that I'm putting a bunch of grease and dirt stuff inside the sandblasting cabinet. So it's cleaned up for the most part to where they won't complain. So we'll get that sandblasted, get that magnafluxed checked, get that over to crankshaft shop, have them index the rod journal main there, and probably just have them polish that up real good. Thing that I came across, I was playing around on Haymo. I've kind of been on a medical leave, but that's a long story. I actually go back to work tomorrow, which I'm happy to do that because next week's check's going to suck. But getting back to the V-twin, I was playing around on Haymo, and I'm going to get billet rods for this, but come to find out, you can actually, a lot of the guys run the 49 cubic inch rod, which is actually a direct replacement now for the 40, the 44, and the 49 cubic inch V-twins. And a lot of the guys have said that, well, everybody said that they're much beefier than the 40 and the 44 rods, and they've turned them 8,000, 8,200 RPM practically all season. Most of them usually running between 6,000 to 7,000 RPM, and they've never had an issue with the 49 cubic inch rods. So I'm actually going to go that route. I'm going to go ahead and buy the 49 rods, OEM replacement. I'll probably polish the bearing surface up pretty good if they're, make sure they're nice and polished. That way we know we're not going to have any issues. That's going to save me, because I think the billet rods for the V-twin is going to be somewhere in the 200, maybe 250 range. I want to say they're somewhere about 130 bucks. Well, the 49 cubic inch rods are $41, $42 a piece. So, $80, $90 compared to $250, $260. So that's actually going to save quite a bit of money, and maybe throw a cam in that. We'll see. We'll see what my budget comes out to, but just wanted to give you guys a quick update on where I'm at. I'm still going to still looking for somebody that can bore this out 20 over. So I've got a guy lined up. I sent him a message, and he hasn't replied back yet. I didn't figure he'd reply back during the weekend, but we're going to get a gasket rebuild kit and all that stuff for that, and start getting things together. I've got a flywheel, a good stator, generator, alternator, whatever the heck everybody calls them things. So if you or anybody that wants that, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to send you that, because I sure as heck won't be needing it. I don't want to just toss it when somebody else can use it on a grass cutter or whatever the heck they need it for. But that's where I stand at this point. I'm going to get this engine all tore apart, start going over it, make sure everything still looks good. Get rid of that. Definitely don't need that little thing, do we? It's going to be kind of pointless. So we'll get that flywheel off there and get this tore apart and get her all boxed up like the V-twin stuff and start heading from there. So thanks for watching, guys.